Hello and welcome to Mann's Model Moments. Today I'm going to be unboxing and building this, the brand new 2cm Flak 38 anti-aircraft gun in 1/35th scale. This was probably the most ubiquitous air defence weapon used by Germany in World War II, and this version from ICM is a completely new tooling. So let's get it open and see what we have. As usual with ICM, we have the glossy outer with colour artwork covering the sturdy flip-top opening box underneath. Opening this reveals the plastic, in this case a single bag containing 2 frames. Below that we have the standard ICM instruction booklet, which holds the small decal sheet inside the inner cover. We'll look at those soon. Under that we have the also standard ICM colour paint guide. Check out my video on those paints if you've not done so already. I'll link it here. The instructions are also ICM's usual A4 full colour booklet style, with a large rendition of the box artwork at the top, followed by short description and specifications, and then the paint guide key to ICM's range. Being a brand new tooling, the QR code at the bottom doesn't just link to the ICM website, but to the excellent video building instructions that they've introduced. Opening the booklet up, we can see the usual clear ICM layout. First up are the sprue frame layouts, with only a single part indicated in orange as not for use. We then get into the instructions, and you're immediately given options as to what elevation angle you wish the gun to be at, and whether you want an armoured or unarmoured version. This is again shown over leaf, as the actual construction steps for this kit are pretty short. It is only a flat gun after all. You then get into 4 different painting schemes for this gun, which cover a fantastic range, but as it was so ubiquitous, you could use pretty much any German scheme on this, as most of the decals are not unit specific. Speaking of decals, the little sheet supplied is very nicely produced as usual, and consists mostly of various kill counts and markings to give the gun a bit of character. The kit itself is supplied on 2 frames, the first of which contains the actual 20mm cannon, one half of the base, one of the side mounts and various other smaller pieces, including the unused handheld optics. All are crisply moulded with nice detail and free from any flash, ejector pin marks or other defects. The other frame is likewise and unsurprisingly very nicely produced, containing the other half of the base, the other side support, armoured shield and so on. With that, it's time to actually build this up. The gun attaches very positively to the support via a rear tab, but after some test fitting I found the best way to put it together was to actually cement the base first, then locate the rear tab on the cannon onto the base. With the bond uncured on the support, the gun can then be easily secured via the 2 pins. I decided to armour my Flak 38, why wouldn't you, so these brackets need placing on the central armour section. With these secure, you can then get this onto the gun. This is a bit fiddly, a common theme in this kit, and tweezers are essential for building it, but it's obvious when things are in the right place, and when they come together they look very pleasing. The circular elevation mounts are next, and these attach via a couple of locating pins on the gun support with no issue at all. The ammunition clip can then be cemented into its slot through this. And the opposite side can also be put in. Next is the left hand support for the gun assembly. These supports are simply made from 2 parts, one for each face, and they present no issues. We then have the second decision to make, what angle we want to display our gun at. Deciding on whether you want 20 or 40 degrees changes which part you'll need for the piston, which then glues into a slot in the face of the support. The circular elevation mounts can then be put into the support, and with the gun angled appropriately, a pair of tweezers can align the pin on the hydraulic piston onto the locating hole on the support. After the two-piece right-hand support is made in the same way as the left one, it also has this little piece at the bottom to add onto it. This, as I mentioned, like a lot of elements of the kit, is a bit fiddly to get aligned properly, but tweezers once more get the job done. With that, it's time to bring these elements together onto the platform. The two locating slots on this are different lengths, so you can't get this wrong without a lot of effort. In fact, the only thing to watch out for here is ensuring the two elevation mounts are fully located in the support so that you get nice 90-degree angles and the top doesn't bulge outwards. That's made a little tricky to do because of the delicate nature of some of the parts. And once again, I found tweezers allowed precise application of pressure to get this done. After which, everything can be secured with cement. This little bracket and associated bar also differ depending on the angle of the gun, and the parts aren't that different, so just make sure you've got the right bits before you commit here. Tweezers are once again needed, but nothing else here is especially difficult. The next series of steps are various control boxes and accessories that go onto the main assembly, and this is the first of them. These have good fit and positive locating lugs. The main caveat with a lot of them is their size, but that's par for the course really. This three-part assembly looks trickier than the prior one, but although the part going onto the main piece is smaller, it actually fits very positively, so it's no problem at all. We then get to put these control assemblies onto the gun. Once more, tweezers are essential here, but the locating pins are well defined and I didn't have any issues actually getting them on. Likewise, the side box locates with some tiny pins, but with care these align perfectly and secure it in place nicely. Now I just want to take a moment to thank all of you who have supported me directly through YouTube memberships and Patreon. This really does keep the channel going, and without you it would be very difficult for me to be able to continue doing this. Now if you're only just seeing your name on here for the first time, it's because I update this monthly, and if I've prepared some videos ahead of time, then there may still have the old list on, even if the list has been updated since then. Don't worry though, your name will get on the list and will continue to appear throughout your support. If you are considering supporting me, YouTube channel membership is by far the easiest way to do this, since Patreon is becoming a more challenging platform to engage with. Whichever you choose, however, I absolutely appreciate your contributions, and don't forget to come and check out the private members Discord, which you get access to at any level. More boxy bits now, this one presenting no challenge and making up quickly. Though you do need to check alignment of this rear piece. If it feels like it's not fitting, it's because you've got it the wrong way round. Then we have the smallest piece in the whole kit, this tiny control knob. Just be very careful it doesn't fly off into the snatches of the carpet monster, because if it does, you'll never find it. This assembly fits flawlessly onto the top rear of the gun. Just check you don't knock that little control knob that you've just put on. The footrest and control piece attaches to an alignment tab, and though I forgot to film it, here you can see the seat base, which locates by way of two pins to holes in the base. That done, and we're back to boxy bits. I'm not quite sure what this one does, but it goes at the front of the gun and it's a simple three-piece assembly that builds up without issue. Next up are the optics. First this two-piece sight, which has an optional cover that I omitted. Next we have this small piece that mates the optics to the mount. I decided to put this onto the mount first, and then put the optic onto that, as it gave me something to hold it with. Finally is this little scope, which once again the main threat is in losing it. This entire assembly can then be put onto the gun, and this rod placed to get it to the right angle. Again, tweezers are essential here. And with that, we can put that last front boxy bit on. We then have the ammo clip storage bin on the side of the gun to make up, which is facilitated by 3 locating lugs. This is probably the weakest area of the kit, as the bottom and sides don't have a very positive fit to each other, but a bit of jiggling gets you there without too much fuss. It does look the part when complete, however, which is the main thing. We then have the seat, which doesn't exactly look like the pinnacle of reclining luxury, but the back piece attaches to the seat bottom very positively with this recessed tab. And then the backrest, such as it is, balances on the support with a ridged hole. Again, tweezers and a steady hand are needed, along with some fine adjustment, but it certainly looks in scale when finished. The seat can then be put onto the mount, just being careful to keep everything aligned and not knock any of the parts that you've just glued, like the seat back, out of position. As I'm armouring my flak, the top shield mount can then be placed on, which it does so almost by itself. And I also need those front bracket mounts on either side, locating with a couple of pins each. The shield mount then fits onto these, at which point you need to trim off a couple of nuts on the mounts. Needless to say, this is tricky at this stage, and these would really be best trimmed off before mounting so you don't have to do this late on in the game with lots of things to potentially break. This is only for the armoured version, and you'll see why after I've cemented the shield here, via the 2 recessed areas that the front support bracket goes into. The support brace then fits into the shield via a shaped recess, and they are handed, so be careful that you've got the right one. The forked piece then goes over the frame of the vertical support, which is why those bolts need removing in the armoured version. I just advise you to do it at the start before assembly. The front auxiliary shield has a tiny support bracket that goes on via another recessed tab. Once again, fiddly, but it goes together perfectly. This then sits nicely on the bracket we placed over the control box, with that tiny front bracket fixing to the vertical to get that perfect angle. We can now turn our attention to the base, which is made of an upper and lower piece, which unsurprisingly don't put up any sort of fight. The 3 lower feet can then be put in, and with that we can drop on the main gun assembly. The final step is to load up the ammo holder, though this really depends on how you're going to use the model. So let's have a look at the finished thing. At the risk of sounding like an ICM fanboy, this is a nice little kit. I do try to show you in these build reviews all of the good and bad parts of a kit, And if this does have any faults, it's that some of the parts are a bit fiddly, but that kind of comes with getting the finesse required for some of the items, so it's hardly a detractor. The instructions could be clearer at the beginning, getting you to trim off the nuts on the side brackets before you put it together, and the fit of the ammo clip holder could be a bit more positive, but other than that I'm struggling to find faults to pick at here. I know ICM are going to be releasing this set with a full crew too, and it's great to have the option of both with and without, so you're not buying stuff you don't want or need. For example, if you don't want to paint figures, or if you wanted a couple of these in diorama but only wanted one active crew, then being able to buy both is perfect. I'm also sure that there will be future releases with this included on the back of some of ICM's trucks. The price in the UK is just £15, which is the same or less than other Flak 38s out there, and it was such a prolific anti-aircraft defence weapon that I'm sure the 135th diorama crowd out there will welcome this. It's also essentially built up like the real one was, so if you want to add to this with some scratch building, there's some great options for example one being in service, a destroyed or a damaged one, and so on. I built this one up from nothing to finished in an hour. You don't need to faff about with interior painting or anything, so if you fancy a little break from other projects but still want something with a decent level of challenge, mainly due to the small nature of some of the parts making things a bit fiddly, then this is ideal. As is often the case, I have no hesitation in recommending this kit. Not because it was sent to me by ICM, but because it's a nice build, as I hope I've demonstrated and that you've seen today. That's all for this instalment of Mann's Model Moments. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel for more like it, and share this video with others you think would also enjoy it. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and if you're feeling generous then I also have a Patreon, which is absolutely the best way of helping me to grow the channel and produce more content like this. With that, I hope you have plenty of modelling moments of your own, and I look forward to welcoming you on the next video.